In all my paintings, I'm making a connection. And usually it's a connection with a moment in time.
Artist Dave Gilsvik captures Minnesota's North Shore. The Duluth Homegrown Music Festival reaches a milestone.
No matter how big it gets, it's going to stay Duluth and Twin Ports local.
A poetry film features Paul Lundgren's Calling Out and a bold blend of original music from the brothers Burn Mountain. These artists and more on this episode of The Playlist.
Funding for The Playlist is provided by the citizens of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Well, they're a pair of talented brothers determined to experience music making to the fullest. Tonight, they're joined by fellow musician Colleen Myhre. So please welcome Brothers Burn Mountain to the playlist.
I gotta sow if you regret. Live my life one breath at a time. Sharpen my knife on the edge of my mind. One out hitch with a steamy stride. Life that OB's got a piece of my hide. Take me, break me, fake a tear or two. Face you, embrace you, make amends with you. Love you, old hog, looking down on me. Why do you gawk? Ain't that much to see. I got a shadow 3 miles long. Sometimes I'm fallow, sometimes I'm wrong. I gotta roll my own cigarette. I gotta sow if you regret. Live my life one breath at a time. And I'll sharpen my knife on the edge of my mind.
I have a habit of getting drunk and calling myself on the telephone. 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 Happens about every other Tuesday or Wednesday. Calling myself on the middle of a busy work week is when I'm most desperate for my own attention. Calling myself 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 myself on the telephone, desperate for my own attention. Calling myself on the telephone, desperate for my own attention. I like to give myself plenty of encouragement and advice. Just keep doing what you're doing. That's how I got my start. It's fun to make these calls, but I don't like receiving them. When I'm busy working on a project with a looming deadline or having a quiet dinner, the last thing I need is my future self calling and blabbering a bunch of drunken nonsense. You might think it's useful to get advice from the future, but it's really not very helpful at all. It's always too vague or obvious. Be careful out on the lake, I'll say, and tell Mom you love her. I never give myself any good advice, like a smart investment strategy or how to avoid regrettable behavior. It would be really nice, just once, if I would explain to myself exactly when clowning around will be funny and when it will get me into trouble. Sometimes I get caught in a vortex of phone calls. I call myself in 1999 and he'll put me on hold because he has me from 2012 on the other line. Then I'll get a call while I'm on hold and it's me from next month telling me to hang up if I know what's good for me. I received a sad call about 4 years ago. It was me calling to ask myself if I remembered when I told myself to just follow my heart. Well, not really, I said, but it's a common piece of advice. I've definitely heard it a lot. Well, I told myself, it turns out I didn't really know what I was talking about back then. I've come to find out you should only follow your heart about half the time. The rest of the time, you should be practical. That was when I decided not to listen to my own advice anymore. I treat myself like a prank caller or a telemarketer now. Why do you bother calling me, I sometimes ask. Because I love you, I always answer.
We're in the studio with Walter Ashik, and he is the festival director of the Duluth Homegrown Music Festival. Welcome to the playlist.
Thanks for having me.
So we are thinking about one of the biggest festivals Duluth throws, and it all centers around local music. How crazy is that to plan?
It's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work. We have a great community that helps us, as well as a great steering committee and volunteers.
But 200 bands, musical acts in 8 days?
It's the first time we've hit the 200 mark, so it's kind of a big deal. It's a really community-owned festival, so we really have to thank all of the Twin Ports for helping us out.
One of the things that everybody looks forward to running up to it is the day the field guide drops. That's a big day. You want to tell me about what goes into that field guide?
6 months worth of writing and reaching out to businesses and bands and writing bios, doing cover art. The great David Morera, Scat Radio, did the cover art this year. And we print 17,500 of them to disperse all the way from the Iron Range down to Twin Cities metro area. Yeah, I always think of it kind of like the Twin Ports yearbook. You can look back and see pictures of people, what they looked like 6 years ago, and see bands that came and who's still playing and who's not active anymore. It's a real like moment in history.
Tell me a little bit about what you've seen in the 3 years you've been working as the festival director.
Just the community support is really great. I mean, we have really great staff. Everyone's really dialed in when it comes time to work to get stuff done. I mean, it always seems kind of, how's this going to happen? I mean, how do you make a 200-band 8-day festival happen? But it always comes together. The Invasion's the second year that we've ever done that. It's really something I'm pretty proud of, is bringing some of the Duluth music down to the Twin Cities, hopefully enticing them to come and check out Homegrown a week later, give them just a little bit of taste and say, here's 4 bands, here's 196 more to come check out later that week.
You have a fantastic career. You've worked on a couple of different radio shows, for one of them for 10 years. So how did you get dialed in on music and that be your passion?
I've always grown up being a fan of music. I always loved going through my dad's record collection. I grew up in a pretty small town where there wasn't a lot of local music, so I didn't have a chance to go see much. So I was always driving to the cities and seeing big bands. And once I moved up here and realized all the people from basement shows to big bar venues, how many people are actually doing it here that I don't have to go out of town, I just really started going out and supporting that and wanted to help out as much as I could.
What do you look for in music? You know, what makes the Walt cut?
My own tastes differ from everybody else's, but that's the best part about Homegrown, is that whether you're a big fan of accordion music, you might find something. If you like hip hop, if you like heavy metal, I mean, it's all there for you.
What about the radio show Walt Cut? What are you going to show us? Your playlists are wide and varied, and I always learn something.
Well, I do a show that's all Duluth local music for station in the Twin Cities, so I'm happy to keep playing Duluth music and sharing that throughout Minnesota and nationwide. My own radio show on the college station is something a little more diverse, trying to open up people to music that they might not have heard already, nationally, internationally, and of course local in there too. What's
the best thing you've run across in the last month?
Music-wise? Mm-hmm. I like the avant-garde stuff. I like Tim Kaiser's music a lot. I like Tony Bennett's new Seed Math project. Anything that's just kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. I mean, I love bratwurst shows because it's something you just don't see every day. When you look to the future of the Duluth Homegrown Music Festival, where do you see it going? I want it to always remain local. That's something that has been instilled since Starfire started it, and it's always maintained its commitment to local music and the local community. So no matter how big it gets, it's going to stay Duluth and Twin Ports local. Well, thank you for the work that you put into it and your whole committees. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, cool. We'll see you at Homegrown. Absolutely.
This is where I would start to hum, because I don't really want to be thinking that much. What I'm really focusing my brain on is shapes and relationships. My name's Dave Gilsvik, and I'm an oil painter, and I live in Two Harbors, Minnesota, and I paint anything and everything from Duluth to Grand Portage. I'm liking what I see so far, but I don't want to think about it too much at this point. Okay, that's something to work from, and the camera has done its job for drawing. But I tend to want the painting to live on its own. No one's ever going to compare it to the day where we were standing, and I think paintings become this whole new thing.
If we see something somewhere, Sievertson's gallery or wherever it might be, wow, we like that. You jot down the name, you look them up, and you find them.
And I was, flattered because it's such a wonderful restaurant, and people love coming here, and I thought it'd be a good exposure.
So we're not in the business of selling art, we're in the business of sharing great experiences.
In all my paintings, I'm making a connection, and usually it's a connection with a moment in time where things come together. It's a fairly tight drawing, but it's fairly minimal too. There isn't any busy detail, which of course adds to that sparseness, that gray day, that mood, the foreboding of going into the Boundary Waters on a tough day. Now, I thought I was done with this painting, but then I started playing with it, and you just start having fun. And more color usually doesn't hurt, but you know when you've gone too far. I've spent my life on the North Shore, and it's the most special place in the world for me, and so I'm just doing what I love to do, and that comes out, and people appreciate it, and it's great that I can share it. Seagull Summit Sunset.
This is a new one. It's called Where You Go.
I'd like to welcome Brothers Burn Mountain with Sister Colleen Myhre, ceremonial sister tonight.
Yeah, adopted.
Adopted. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for having us.
So the last time I saw the two of you, you were acoustic and you were a little quieter. There was a little different thing happening. How has this journey been?
I think for us it's about taking risk in our music, and I think that's the best way to find a new sound, to experiment.
Then you add in another voice, another percussion dimension, and harmonies. What does that add?
Colleen is a soul singer, and I think that's a rare thing in anybody, and it adds so much. That's all I can say to have Colleen singing with us.
Do they say, okay, here's the words, sing harmony, go for it, or how do you work together?
They do that to me.
We don't say too much usually.
No. I just kind of feel their groove, and I hear the harmony, and if they don't like what I'm singing, they'll let me know. But we just blend really well together. We have a really good, feel for the music together.
Pretty awesome. So who's writing the music?
Jesse and I collaborate on, the poetry end of things. We're both poets and both songwriters at the same time. So there's no, we have no theory on how it works. It happens differently every time that a song pops up. And when a song does pop up, it's usually almost always a surprise, sweet surprise to us.
How does it come? Does it words, melody? Which comes first?
I would say it's really simultaneous, even if we're a few miles apart. There's always stuff ringing through my ears, and it's kind of like whispers and winds between us. We don't have to say much about it. We just, we play and see what happens.
So since I've seen you last, you've put out 4 recordings in 2 years. That's pretty insane.
You think so?
I think it's amazingly ambitious.
I think more musicians should push themselves like that.
Yeah.
What's in the works for you guys? What's the next recording? What's the next, or you just want to breathe? You're going to stay in one place for a little while and stay put?
We're going to do all that.
We got a bunch of new stuff coming too. We brought out 1 or 2 tonight.
And how do people get a hold of you? How do they follow what you have out there for recordings or tour schedules and all of that?
I think the best way to connect with us is just to come to a show, because we love playing for people.
It shows. And thank you very much. And all the best to you, all of you.
Funding for the playlist is provided by the citizens of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and by viewers like you.